Peace and blessings, everybody. It's Saturday, December the 8th, the year 2018. A lot of activity today in the prison ministry. It seems a second death has occurred at Terre Haute, Indiana, and it appears that Warden J.R. Bell, who has a septic tank for a heart, cannot keep the prisoners alive at his prison. He's the same warden that has banned me and my wife and others from communicating to Schaefer Cox, Russell Landers, Kurt Johnson, and others. And so I have not read these two articles yet, and I would like to read them into YouTube. This is in regards to the death of Patrick Fiametta-McConnell. If you go to bop.gov, his number is 171-81-111. 171-81-111. He was 36 years old, white male, and he died on November the 23rd, 2018. One of the articles says, an inmate at the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute has died after staff attempted to save him. You notice, however, my wife has made a very good point that when they're sending these men through the kangaroo court, there is article after news report after news report about how evil and dangerous and guilty they are. But when they die in prison, it's always a very short article. And it's always written in such a way as to biased for the prison and against the man who died. It can't comment under investigation. He died after the staff attempted to save him. Do you believe that? Sure. According to officials on November the 23rd, corrections officers found inmate Patrick Fiametta-McConnell unresponsive in his cell. Staff called for medical assistance and began life-saving measures to revive McConnell. He was then transported to a local hospital where he was later pronounced dead. McConnell was serving 150 months, 7-month sentence. He was carried out by the Northern District of California. At this time, they have not determined the cause of death. All right, here's a letter that was put forward by his family. Okay, and I would like to read it so that we have the full story, and this is what his family has to say. I have not read the letter. I'll be reading it for the first time right now. Looks like it was dated December 4th. Story behind inmate who died in prison. We wish to comment on a recent article concerning our son, Patrick Fiametta-McConnell, an inmate who recently passed at Terre Haute Federal Penitentiary, published in the Tribune Star. It is our sincere hope that you will allow us to add to the record in this matter. Patrick was a practicing drug addict in the streets of Oakland, California. At the time of his arrest, federal mandatory minimums landed him a 13-year sentence for his crimes. Because he had no priors and no gang affiliation, Patrick began his term of federal incarceration at USP Tucson, a protected facility. After completing 3 years without incident, Patrick was placed in the SHU Special Housing Unit for investigation. The SHU is not a good place to be, by the way. This went on for more than 1.5 years. None of the various charges investigations were sustained. This was followed by 3 years of what is known as diesel therapy. You guys know Congressman George Hansen was brutally tortured with diesel therapy. Pastor Ken Hovind talks about diesel therapy and how bad that is when they put a prisoner through that sort of treatment. Among federal inmates, diesel therapy occurs when the Federal Bureau of Prisons places an inmate on constant travel to facilities throughout the country. Patrick's first stop was USP Florence, Colorado, the most violent federal institution in the country. Because of our son's non-gang status and history of protective custody, If he left the shoe at this facility, his life expectancy was estimated to be 15 minutes in general population. Patrick remained alone in the shoe at Florence for over a year. From there, our son was sent to USP Beaumont, Texas, also known as Bloody Beaumont. Needless to say, Patrick would have been attacked and killed had he stepped out of the shoe at this facility as well. From there, Patrick was sent to FCI Oakdale, Louisiana, wherein another quote, investigation placed him back in the shoe, followed by more transit. Please understand the nature of these investigations. Patrick did 6 months in the shoe in Tucson after a wadded up wet paper towel was found in his cellie's unlocked locker. Patrick was, quote, investigated while in the shoe because his aunt sent him a letter packed with love and goodness, interpreted as some sort of secret drug message. Patrick remained in the shoe for a letter he never received or read. After a public campaign and much pressure on our congressional representatives, Patrick arrived in USP Terre Haute, another of the very few protective custody federal facilities throughout this country. At Terre Haute, Patrick was again a model prisoner, doing his time and looking forward to getting out. Our son was a drug addict who did stupid things behind his addiction. His open, loving nature is borne out by the overwhelming response we've received after news got out of his death. We've heard from inmates throughout the country expressing their condolences and sorrow. Services back in California will be standing room only. It is our simple wish that the record reflect that Patrick was not simply an inmate who died in prison. He was a good man who had nothing but love in his heart for any and all of the fellow human beings who came into his life. Since his death, we remained in Terre Haute waiting on the Bureau of Prisons to release our son in order to take him home to California. Roxanne and Richard Meade, Patrick's mother and father, San Leandro, California. All right. I don't know if there's anything else to say. I'll just let that stand alone.